Cody, how can edge computing help with the bias in artificial intelligence models?
Well, I think we said before, in terms of privacy, having this granular control of your flow of information, and not only control the information, but control of the actual inference and different models that are run on it and where they're run, allows you to better not expose that information. Now, when it comes to bias, there's several interesting things that we can do when we're operating close to sources of data generation. One of these is certainly in smart cities and in public surveillance. One model for public surveillance, whether it's audio or video, is to run fiber optics everywhere and just bring all of the data back to a central location and record it. And then if something happens, you can obviously do something about it, or if you need to keep that information. So the problem with that from a bias standpoint is that you still have humans looking and doing these things. So there's not the same problems that you would have with a person, their own personal biases that factor into this. We'd actually submitted a proposal for funding in smart cities to basically bring some privacy preservation and try to do bias mitigation through running the AI models on the devices that are actually generating the data. So on the cameras or adjacent to the cameras. Same thing for audio. So for instance, if you hear a gunshot or some other event or a car screech or a fight or something like that, you're generating an event that then maybe would inform to turn on and start saving information. Otherwise, you wouldn't just start recording and surveying people walking down the road. So the idea there would be that you, similar to the Alexa model, where hey, don't start listening until I tell you to listen. You would be doing that for video and for public safety and those sort of things. Now, if the model itself, if you've tried to develop a criminal predictor, if that model itself is biased, then obviously that doesn't help because you'll still have people show up that probably shouldn't have. But if it's more benign things like a car screech, or which wouldn't be benign. I mean, if you have some other events that aren't kind of person based, then obviously those would work. Same thing with seeing somebody run or fall down or seeing a gun or those sort of things. That can be generated on the devices themselves. And it's even more helpful because in the event of, say, a gunshot, you may have multiple sensors that can then determine, where and what's the cardinality of the actual event itself. And those can be agreed upon in conjunction with the individual devices themselves not having to be backhauled back to a central location. So I think it gives you a lot more options to kind of to control the flow of information. Same thing with medicine as well, is that you can control that information flow and run whatever models you want and not have to expose that information that you don't want to expose.